It's time for Right Time Radio. This is Lynn Donovan. Sue Haas is still out of the state, so we're missing her terribly, by the way. Tay, are you missing Sue?
I'm sorry, was she gone?
Yes, she was gone. She's been gone a good month or so.
She has been gone a while.
And also in our studio is our guest. I'm so excited, Nancy Oswald. Hello.
Oh, good morning. Happy to be here.
Good. Well, we are going to make the weather get better, Tay. Well, you know, if you wash your car, it'll rain.
Well, I did wash my car. That's why it's going to rain.
So if you talk about baseball, then you're going to get better weather. That's our theory.
All right.
Well, that's what we're going to do today.
I guess we can disprove or prove the theory here in the next couple of days, so we'll see how it works.
And don't hold me accountable for whatever happens.
Oh, no, it's being recorded, so you can't back out of it now.
That's true. So tell us about your book, Nancy.
So this book, it's called Insects in the Infield. It is a baseball story.
Yeah.
Geez, how apropos.
Yes. And so hopefully we'll get some baseball weather soon. I woke up into snow and blizzardy last night. I wasn't sure how everything would be driving in here, but
is that your rig out there with the snow on the top of it?
It probably is.
We were sitting there going, who's coming in? Where are they coming in from?
Yeah.
It's snow on top of it.
She emailed me sometime in the night. I'm not sure when. I noticed it in the middle of the night, and she said we got 5 inches in 2 hours.
Where's this?
We're south of Cotopaxi. It's at about 7,500 feet.
Oh, well, that's probably why. Yeah. Okay. So you're up in the hills a little.
North end of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
So, but she said all the streets were warm, and so she was able to get in.
Roads were fine. So, but you don't know when you're in the middle of the storm. You go, what's the rest of the world like?
Yeah.
That's true. So, as you say, apropos, we're gonna read this baseball story. Now, what grade level would you say this was? I mean, I know adults love this too, but
well, I think ages 8 and up could handle the reading, quite easily. And the characters are 11 and 10. And,
there you go.
And it's a little bit of a sibling rivalry story because it's the sister is she's a scientist, loves it, and has gotten this insect collection.
Yeah.
And the brother loves baseball but hates math. So there's a little bit of a dynamic going on there. And when I read, I'm going to start actually at the chapter 3.
A little further in. Yeah.
After the the insect zoo, which is a whole collection of insects that the younger sister has brought home, arrives in the house. And
Fun.
so
nice.
And the problem with the 11-year-old is that they are short a couple members for the team, and they have these bad baseball bullies that they have to fight. So that they really want to win, and so that's kind of his conflict, and layered on top of the fact that his parents won't let him play baseball unless he gets his math grade up. So that's kind of some background, and I can start reading if that's appropriate right now.
Yeah,
and
let's do it. I'm excited.
Okay.
This girl sounds like my kind of gal.
Yes. They're both kind of fun.
Yeah.
So this is on chapter 3.
Okay.
The first thing Buster saw when he woke up the next morning was his math book. It was belly flopped on the floor next to his bed with the spine up, cover splayed, and the corners of his unfinished paper peeking out from underneath. It reminded him of the nightmare he'd had about Mrs. Fisher. She had been standing over his desk at school with numbers tumbling out of her mouth like a waterfall. When the numbers landed, they changed into soldiers and started a war on his homework paper. He heard Maggie's alarm clock go off and jumped up so he could beat her to the bathroom. As he flew out of his bedroom, he spotted his bat leaning next to his dresser and his ball and glove nearby. Today was the first day of baseball practice. Nothing, absolutely nothing, was going to ruin today. When he got to the bathroom, Buster grabbed his toothbrush from the holder. He gripped it like a bat and took a few imaginary swings in front of the mirror. Zing! The ball went up through the mirror and out of the house. It soared like a bird over the rooftops of Asheville. Buster smiled with satisfaction as he brought his toothbrush back for another swing. He planted his feet firmly and waited for the pitch. The ball was thrown. It looked good. He held his stance, watching the ball come, watching. Suddenly, he felt something crawling on his bare toes. It tickled the hairs on top of his foot and wiggled up his ankle. Strike! Buster dropped his toothbrush and began hopping up and down on one foot. Yuck! He yelled as he felt tiny legs scuttling up under the cuff of his pajama bottoms. Ew! He felt the bug shinny up his shin. Help! The creature scrambled over his kneecap and circled to the back of his thigh. Maggie rushed into the bathroom like a fireman to the rescue. She skidded to a halt near the bathroom sink. What is it? What's the matter? Buster straightened up and shook his leg violently. The tiny creature lost its grip, slid down his calf, and rolled onto the floor. Maggie was horror-stricken. Sorry, with Mike. Okay. Maggie was horror-stricken. My arachnid! You've killed my arachnid! She scooped up the stunned spider. Poor little arachnid, she crooned, stroking it gently with her index finger. You've scared her to death, she said accusingly, glaring at her brother. Just then, the confused spider revived and scampered off her fingertips. It fell through the air like a skydiver and landed within inches of Buster's bare feet. He pranced backwards, knees almost up to his chin, trying to keep both feet off the floor at once. I'll get her. Maggie dropped to her knees and followed the lively spider around the floor with her cupped hand bouncing behind it. What's this all about? Dad's stern voice boomed from the bathroom door.
All right, let's take a commercial break and we'll be back with more. I'm having so much fun listening to this. It kind of sounds like me and my husband. Because I'm the one that'll capture the spiders and take them outside, and he's the one that just wants to smash them.
Yeah. Well,
You know what's worse than a spider loose in your house, or a spider in your house?
What?
A spider you can't find in your house.
Yeah.
oh boy,
you're right.
whether you can find the webs
Exactly.
where we live.
Yeah, me too, I'm afraid. All right, let's go to commercial. We are back with Right Time Radio, and we are listening to Nancy Oswald read from her story, Insects in the Outfield, and I love this book. My grandkids love this book.
Maggie captured the spider near the bathtub and stood up quickly. Buster picked up his toothbrush and waved it angrily. I was in here minding my own business when that whatever it is, attacked me. I was just letting it out for a morning walk, Maggie explained. A stroll up my shin, Buster shouted. Maggie, Dad said firmly, those bugs need to stay in their containers or out they go. Maggie's face fell. Okay, she said gloomily. She straightened her glasses and left the bathroom, cradling the frightened spider in the palm of her hand. Buster squeezed the toothpaste tube angrily. A blue, worm-like shape oozed out and drooped over the end of the toothbrush. He grimaced, then carefully inspected the floor around his feet before beginning to brush. When he arrived at the breakfast table, Maggie was already there, reading an encyclopedia while she ate. Where are Mom and Dad? He asked. They had to take Dad's car to the shop, Maggie mumbled without looking up. Did you know that some millipedes grow up to a foot long? Wonder how long mine will get. Buster cringed. He reached for the cereal box and fished out the free baseball card before pouring himself a bowlful. Ricky Henderson, he said enthusiastically, the leading base stealer of all time. Maggie kept reading. Buster scanned the other stats on his card and reached for the spoon in the sugar bowl. Without looking, he began sprinkling his cereal. Suddenly, he gagged and dropped the spoon. Maggie, there are ants in the sugar bowl. That's what I feed them, Maggie said absently, still reading. On our table right here, Buster stood up and took a step backwards. What? Maggie finally looked. Ants in the sugar bowl? Oh, no. She slammed her book shut and stared at the red specks climbing up the rim into the bowl and walking across the sugar. They looked like tiny hikers crossing the snows of the Arctic. At the same time, Buster discovered a line of red ants moving steadily across the kitchen floor. We've been invaded. He backed away from the table and gaped at the advancing ants. They marched up the table table leg one by one and crawled over the plaid tablecloth without stopping. Hurry, we've got to get in the back upstairs before Mom comes home. Maggie dumped the sugar onto the table and began brushing the ants into the empty bowl. Buster didn't move. He thought about Maggie getting caught. For once, she could be the one in trouble. The insects would be gone and... Please! Maggie stopped at the kitchen door and looked back pleadingly. I'll do your math homework for a week. 2, Buster said. Okay, 2, and you have to promise not to tell. Deal. Buster joined in scraping, scooping, sweeping, whisking, pinching, and herding the fiery red creatures into his baseball cap. He followed Maggie, working down the hall to the bottom of the front stairs. A waterfall of moving ants cascaded down the steps toward him. We'll never get them all, he groaned. Keep going, Maggie urged. We're halfway there. Buster crawled up the steps and swept his way along the upstairs hallway to the room at the end. There, Maggie held the lid of the terrarium open, and Buster dumped the contents of his hat inside. He breathed a long sigh of relief. I guess the lid was loose, Maggie said. Guess so. I'll go get my homework. Last night's homework? You didn't do it? I didn't have time, Buster said. And we don't have time. Maggie pointed to the clock. Buster panicked. 7:45 a.m. It was already time to go. He scowled and crammed his hat on his head. Ouch! He snapped the cap off again, squashed an ant behind his ear, and stomped from the room. A few minutes later, he stood at the foot of the stairs, wishing his parents would let Maggie walk to school by herself. Hurry up, he called impatiently. We're going to be late. Coming, Maggie's voice sounded muffled, and he could hear a faint rumbling in the upstairs hallway. Finally, she appeared at the top of the stairs, balancing her cardboard box. You're not taking those to school, are you? It's for my science class, Maggie explained. I'm giving a report today. I'm not walking to school with that insect circus, Buster said, folding his arms across his chest. Aren't you two gone yet? Mother called as she entered through the side door of the house. Buster groaned and hooked his mitt through his belt. He swung his bat over his shoulder and stomped out of the front door. I think you're forgetting something, Maggie said as they reached the sidewalk. Buster slapped his forehead and sprinted back inside. He dashed upstairs, stuffed his books into his backpack, and boomeranged back out the front door. When he caught up with Maggie, she was 3 houses down, cheerfully explaining the contents of the box to her neighbor. The bee is my favorite, she was saying. It vibrates its wings over 400 times a second. That's what makes the humming sound, 24,000 times a minute. Imagine that. Maggie fell in beside Buster and continued her prattle. Did you know a queen bee lays as many as 1,800 eggs a day? Hundreds of thousands in a lifetime. Buster didn't answer. Too many big numbers. It reminded him of math class, and now he needed to decide what he was going to tell Miss Fisher when he showed up again without his math homework. As he walked, he tried out several lines. A millipede ate my homework. No, it didn't sound quite right. I had to defend my house against the red army ants. Who would believe that, even if it was true? A giant arachnid invaded our house, and that's the end of a chapter. So I can go to a new piece, or
let's take a commercial break. We'll come back and read a little bit more, and then we'll talk about it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'll find another section. Probably just hop.
Cool. Yeah. Don't go away. We'll be back with more insects in the outfield. We are back with Right Time Radio. We have Nancy Oswald in the studio, and she's going to read a little bit more from her book called Insects in the Outfield.
Insects in the Infield.
Oh, the infield. I got it completely wrong.
That's the second book.
Oh, right.
The outfield will be the second book.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I've skipped a few chapters forward, and the sibling rivalry continues. And Maggie is convinced Buster that he needs to keep the insect zoo in his room overnight because her friend Jenny is coming.
Oh,
and
okay.
Jenny hates insects. So again, she's really holding that math homework lever over him, and that kind of continues through the book.
Okay.
But he's dreaming about the World Series, and then suddenly Buster was wide awake. He sat up and flicked on his bedside light in time to see a yellow and black winged creature escape through a small hole in the screen that covered the top of the jar. "Oh, no, you don't," he said, leaping from his bed. "Get back in your cage." The bee ignored him. It flitted around the room, sniffing the daisies on the curtains and investigating the bright orange cougar banner on the wall. "You get back in here." Buster picked up the empty jar and waved it at the bee. "You're not getting away that easy." The bee buzzed past Buster's dresser full of neatly stacked baseball cards. Then, without warning, it zoomed through the hall, half-open bedroom door into the hall. "Stop!" Buster gasped and dropped the jar. He sprinted toward the door, tripping on his throw rug, and he did a baseline slide, slamming the door shut with his bare feet. "Ow!" Buster moaned and picked himself up. He threw open the door and raced down the hall after the bee. It flew sideways, spinning around the bathroom for a few seconds, zoomed back into the hall, and made straight for Maggie's room. Buster skidded to a barefooted halt just inside the door and slammed it shut behind him. At the same instant, Jenny bolted upright in her sleeping bags. "Eek, a bee!" Maggie rolled over in bed and groped for her glasses. She sat up and turned on the bedside light. "Eek!" Jenny shrieked again with the bee zigzagging toward her. Maggie's eyes widened. "Shh, shh." She waved her hands wildly at Jenny and hopped out of bed. Buster stepped farther into the room and gave a sideways swat with his cupped hand. "Now you've had it." The bee bobbed like a light plane in an air pocket, then nosedived toward Jenny's frizzy brown curls. "Save me!" Jenny dove to the bottom of her green sleeping bag and pulled the flap in behind her. Maggie was still waving her arms as she skittered around the room in her cotton nightgown. "Stop!" she pleaded with Buster in a hoarse whisper. Now, little bee. Now, Buster." She turned her head one way, then the other, like a referee at a ping-pong game. The bee gained elevation, made a short circle above Jenny's bag, and whizzed away toward a corner of the house. Buster tried to follow, a corner of the room, I'm sorry. Buster tried to follow. He hurtled over Jenny, but caught his big toe on the folds of her sleeping bag. He landed spread-eagled on the hardwood floor. Before he could regain his footing, the bee changed direction and dive-bombed like a World War II fighter plane. Buster hit the deck. The bee zoomed over. And so I guess you are not going to find out what happened with the bee. You'll have to get the book, and it's on Amazon. It's also available a couple of places. The Prison Museum carries copies, and Gift Chateau down on Main.
Kaleidoscope has them.
Down on Main Street.
So there's lots of places where you can get it.
And you can always get them from me, nancyoswald.com. But if you email me directly, I can give a discount and figure out how to get it to you, either by mail or when I come to town to grocery shop. So
brings the snow down with her.
I see her at the grocery store. Yes, that's doable. Nancy, I need your autograph.
Oh, right. Yes. Well, that doesn't happen too often, but autographs are free, so that's a good thing. Lynn probably knows that too.
Yes. And if you haven't already seen some of the books that Nancy writes, she has a series, Maud and
Ruby.
It's left me for a minute there. Maud and Ruby, The Adventures of Maud and Ruby. And it's inspired by her very own donkey in her own house. Yeah.
Donkeys can be very colorful.
Well, the Ruby and Maud adventures are set in Cripple Creek, so they're kind of local because I mostly write like Colorado set historical fiction for young readers, and so writing the Ruby and Maud books has been a fun adventure. And
let's see, it's 1896. I want to say
96, then the new one that I'll have coming out next, hopefully by the end of the year. It's unknown at this point in time, but. It's in 1898, and Ruby was 11 in the first 3 books, and now she is 13, and she's moved to Colorado Springs because her father got married, and so her whole life has turned upside down.
Wow.
So this adventure is set in Colorado Springs, which was fun for me because it got me to a new place. The first 3 were all in Cripple Creek, and so I had to do a little more research on the trolley line and the and different times, slightly 1898. So it's been fun and a good challenge.
Yeah. And Ruby has a cat named Trouble.
Yes,
right?
she does.
So we have to mention Trouble.
Well, yes, and then Maud had a baby donkey, which appeared in my Christmas story, which was still 1896 Cripple Creek, and so all 3 of the animals tie into the new story. So which I'll be excited to get out there at some point in time.
And the illustrations on your books are phenomenal. So they're fun to look at.
Well, especially the picture book. It's the one that is illustrated and great illustrator Nate Jensen.
Yes.
That did all watercolor paintings in that one. So, and that's
the Christmas one.
That's the Christmas picture book. So which is not a novel, but was also set in 1896 Cripple Creek.
Awesome. So, I love it.
That's cool.
It is cool. Yeah. Nancy's a great writer, too. Now, Nancy used to be a school teacher, about this same grade level, right?
Yeah.
Like yours and mine?
Well,
exactly.
Well, mine, I guess.
Wow.
Fifth grade is I've been retired for a while. I taught in Cotopaxi.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. So, we're 5th graders here and there. We act like 5th graders most
Sometimes.
of the time.
Probably worse some days.
Yeah. So when for me personally, I didn't want to teach any older because the math got harder. So I can relate a little bit to
Buster.
Buster. Yeah.
I was doing good with math till they started adding letters. And that screwed me all up.
Yeah.
I've tried to help my grandchildren with their math homework, and they're like 2nd grade, and it's like, what is this? It's a whole new style. I need to go.
Core.
Yeah. I need
What
to
I don't
sit
get
in
about
and
Common
listen.
Core is I can look at the problem and go, I can do that in my head.
Yeah,
but you want me to
exactly.
do this graph and take 15 minutes to solve something I can do in 10 seconds.
That's what I tell my grandson.
How is this more efficient? I mean, silly me.
I can show you how Gigi solves it, but you're got to do it the way your teacher said. So
Here's how we add.
you can empathize with that. Yeah. Now you've also done a biography.
Yeah.
That one was interesting too. Now who was that?
Along with Edward Wynkoop.
Yeah.
And kind of a partner book to another historical fiction book I wrote.
Right.
So
So that was cool.
Yeah, so you can see all this on my website.
Yeah, Nancy's got all kinds of stuff that you can get. So
Cool.
I think that's it for today's show.
Yeah.
Thank
Got
you
about
so
10
much.
seconds.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun, and it's a beautiful day now. So.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a beautiful day to drive home, right?
Right. Well, grocery shop first.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. All right. Y'all
Bye-bye.
have a great day. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks so much.
We are Royal Gorge Broadcasting, AM 1400, KRLN, Canyon City, Florence, and Penrose.